Chapter 6, Part 2. San Francisco were blocked. The red brake lights, page 90, of an endless supply of cars stood before me, stopped in the middle of the freeway like glowing river of blood. It was a picture of a cardiac arrest painted in traffic. I slapped a hand hard on the steering wheel, which did nothing but hurt. I swore, swerving into the shoulder, and accelerated past the other cars, trapped cars, prompting indignant honking from them. I took the next exit, headed to the BART station. I parked in a nearly deserted lot, climbed out, slammed the door shut. I ran my hand through my hair, pacing up and down aimlessly, wondering when the beat of my heart would return to normal, when the crushed weeping of Bisma would fade from my ears. When Jalil Akram had done what Jalil Akram had done was so messed up. It was practically inhuman. I never thought I'd see someone treat their own child that way. My dad railed against me all the time, but he never shamed me in front of a stranger. He never make me break like I'd seen Bisma break today. Even worse, I knew I could never save her from that little hell she was trapped in. All I had to do was say yes. My parents would be ecstatic. Her family would be ecstatic. By the time our history became an issue, it would be too late. Yes, my parents would be mortified, but the reproach Bisma endured from them would be nothing compared to what I've seen her father inflict on her. More important, she wouldn't be alone. I'd be with her. I could protect her. Yet, there was another part of me, the part that had been dreaming of Kaval for years, that didn't want to stop dreaming. And a third part of me, perhaps the most sensible part, knew that the desire to be noble, to be chivalrous, was a bad reason to marry someone. The world was like a cheese board of misfortune, made up of old apostles. I don't know how to say that word. Moldy camber and overripe roquefort. Oh, those are kind of cheeses. It stank, in other words, and sometimes gave people listeria. You could eat some of a partner's cheese for them, but ultimately there was a strong chance you'd be sick with them, and then two people would be miserable. I pinched the bridge of my nose with my fingers. I was starting to get a headache. It was all the thinking. I wasn't used to it. I got on a train going to the city because it's something to do. I showed up at Remarkable. It was packed. A couple of waiters nodded at me as I made my way inside, pushing past the pleasant low rhythm of customer conversations, past the tinkling melody of forks brushing against plates and glasses clinking, and stepped toward the kitchen, toward the savory, seductive smell of garlic butter and the primal call of perfectly roasted beef. I couldn't remember the last time I used the front entrance, and for a brief moment it felt like all the bustle and the clean, efficient clockworks of the kitchen paused, that everyone stopped to look at me, and then the moment was gone. Though I saw a few more smiles than I spotted when I first come in. Chef Brodier marched up to me. She was not smiling. She wasn't frowning either. Enfin, vous êtes là? She said when I stared at her in confusion. She threw her arms up in the air. What times I must live, and I see chefs without French. Took you long enough to get here. You were expecting me? Of course, mon petit an. The only way to advance at Remarquable is to choose to be here when you don't have to be. When you don't have to cook, but you need to cook. That is when you're a chef, yes? Now go and change into something worthy of your station and get to work. There is peace in rapid motion of a sharp knife, in the surprising cooperation of a perfectly cracked egg, in the delicate perfection with which the sweet red of saffron infuses everything when it touches it with color and smell. In the chaos of a professional kitchen, among the shouting and clanging of pots and the sizzling and frying of the smoke, there's an astonishing amount of calm, if one knows where to stand and what to do. That isn't why I love to cook, but it's a nice modus. A few hours in, Brodier pulled me aside and asked, "Have you eaten?" "Why?" "Because you look hungry, of course," she said, with more exasperation than seemed necessary. "I haven't eaten, chef." Turning to the kitchen at large, he yelled, "Who's hungry?" There was a pause, and then a few timid hands went up, counted 7. "As am I," Brodier declared, rounding to face me. "It is slowing down. Take a break. Make dinner." Sure. What would you like me to make?" "Surprise me," she said. "Something, maybe, that is not on the menu." I would have thought this was some kind of ritual for the new guy on the night shift, if the other members of the staff weren't staring at the chef, obviously surprised. Okay," I said. I'll try to keep the nervousness out of my voice. I'll see what I can do, I guess. I stepped away from my station, thinking about what to serve. I was cooking for a master of French cuisine. Anything I made would be judged by exacting standards of remarkable and probably found wanting. I told myself it didn't matter. The first rule of cooking, in my opinion, is to make what you want to eat yourself. So that's what I decided to do. Just then I wanted something comfortable, like my mother's biryani, but that would take too long. Something quick and delicious. There it was. I rolled peachy, a fat pasta, and went to work with grana, padano, and black pepper, and I crushed using a mortar and pestle. When it was done, I presented it to a chef Brodier with pecorino romano on top and the cheese melting into the creamy pasta. She stared at my creation, horrified. "What the is this?" "It's cacio de pepe. It's..." "I know that, you idiot." She wrenched the fork I was holding and poked at the dish doubtfully. "It's not French." "Not really." "Then it isn't really food now, is it?" She jabbed at the peachy and shoved it in her mouth. She raised her eyebrows and gave a of not approval, precisely, but tolerance. Then, with the air of someone doing me a huge favor, she said, "I will eat it." "Thank you." "You are full of surprises tonight," she said, waving her fork around thoughtfully. "You came here when you were not scheduled, and then, instead of overreaching with something complex, you made this." Brodier paused, then asked, "Who is she?" "This isn't about... A Frenchman doesn't make pasta unless he's thinking about a woman." I raised my eyebrows and almost reminded her that I was not French when I realized that she had just given me a high compliment. I was also pretty sure that what she said was ridiculous, but that didn't seem like the right thing to say either. "It's complicated." She shook her head. "And that's why you make something simple. A young person's mistake." "I've got no idea what you're trying to say, chef." "I know," Brodier said, almost sympathetically. "That's because you're a moron. It's all right. You can't help it." "Are you going to explain it to me?" I asked. She chuckled. "I do not have much time. Get back to work." The rest of the shift was relatively uneventful and passed quickly. As I made my way back to my locker, I realized that I was reasonably happy, which was amazing, given how awful the beginning of the night had been. Coming to work in a familiar kitchen, making food, had been exactly what I needed to recover after Mr. Akram's behavior. I hoped that Bisma Akram had something similar in her life, something that could bring joy and light when all seemed dark.